Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Veritas and Vision. I'm Rachel Kenney. I'm your host, and I am super excited that you guys are here today. I'm very passionate about this topic that we're going to go over, so I may get off on some tangents. So I'm just going to forewarn you ahead of time. We're going to talk about weight cutting for women in jiu-jitsu and other sports as well. I kind of want to go over a little bit. I mean, they all tie together, but like MMA, judo, things like that. But to the extent they all kind of fall in the same bracket. And I want to go over it because it was a commonly asked topic for me to go over in like the sheet that I have in my bio that says you can request any topic. So I'm also very passionate about this, obviously, because I do jujitsu and I see how absolutely unhealthy so many women cut weight. And I want to make a difference for women to, one, have more confidence in themselves when they are in this sport, to be in the right area or compete at the weight they sit closer to. And I also want to educate you guys on what is actually going on when you're cutting weight in a way that is drastic and that is not healthy or backed by science. So I'm working with a lot of actually competitive jiu-jitsu athletes now, boxers, wrestlers. I have a lot of college wrestlers as well, which is really great. And they're all women. And I've changed the game for them in terms of their weight cut. And there are situations where things have to get a little shitty. But when it is that, it is still healthy. It is as healthy as we possibly can do it. And when I do it and I talk about it, I am going to give you some examples. This is for professional athletes. I just want to say that. I want to say, before I even get into this, if you are competing as a hobbyist, you're competing in pursuit of becoming a professional athlete or elite athlete in jiu-jitsu. But if you are just starting out doing local tournaments, maybe traveling a little bit, if you're going for the bigger competitions, worlds, pans, things like that, I can understand a small weight cut. If you are doing local, you literally should not be weight cutting. Compete where you sit. If you are just starting to compete, or you're just learning, you're a white belt, blue belt even, and it's local, it's nothing like super big yet, or even, dude, you do not need to be cutting weight for it. You do not, right? So I'm just gonna say that I truly believe that. These are all my opinions. These are all things that I have learned throughout my 10 plus years as a nutritionist. And I just want to educate you guys and let you know that it is okay to not weight cut for every competition that you do. Okay. So I do have my computer out. I'm going to be reading off of this a little bit, and I want you guys to know that I'm going to be doing this periodically on podcasts when I'm like talking about things that are more severe, maybe more in depth. They have more information. I have a lot of studies here. I have a lot of notes, and I have come prepared, but there's a lot to go over. So you're going to see me going through some stuff. So what I want to say is there right off the bat, okay, with how women choose to cut for competitive judo or BJJ, there was a study done. 89% used fluid restriction, 94% used sauna use, so excessive dehydration. Fluid restriction is going to be like your water cutting, okay? 88% just skipped meals and starved themselves. That hurts my soul. 19% used laxatives. 6% was self-induced vomiting. 6% is a high percentage for that. So that I just want to say off the get-go, like that is kind of what the nature of the sport has produced in terms of weight cutting. It is very unhealthy. And if you sit here, like I already know there's going to be people who watch this video and they're going to be like, yeah, but like I've made it easily every time and I feel okay. Like it's fine. It's not fine. You could feel way better. You can be way more dominant. You guys don't have no idea how much being fueled is so important in going into your matches. Like it is so incredibly important, not only for the way you perform, but the way your body is going to recover afterwards. You are in fight or flight. Your cortisol levels are out the ass. You are having adrenaline dumps over and over and over again. Your hormones are getting hit so severely. It is so important to make sure that you are fueled properly going into something like this. And as a woman, it is so important because you all know what I'm going to say. Our hormones are so complex. Guys, we bleed every month. I guarantee you there's so many women in the sport of jujitsu or who do MMA, judo, they don't have regular periods. They don't have regular periods. Their symptoms might even get worse. You might also notice that after you compete and maybe you had a kind of shitty weight cut and then you had a really tough competition, that your next period, which could be a month later, is terrible. You have awful cramps, you feel nauseous, you can't eat. It's because of the stress. It's always going to happen. So there's so many variables that go into women in weight cutting. Men, completely different story. Guys, you can literally, like I've watched my female teammate or male teammates lose 10 pounds in a day of water. Just where that's not healthy either, but like their bodies respond way better to those types of things than women because it's different. It's still not great, and I don't recommend it, really. But again, they don't have as drastic of like effects that come from doing it that way. 66 to 100% of athletes cut for BJJ. 59 to 88% are doing dehydration, sauna, sweatsuits, water loading, etc. That's like the most commonly reported way of weight cutting for women in BJJ. Oh, that's mixed sex, but still, women do the same thing. It's not incorrect to do it this way. There are just way healthier ways to do it without as high of a risk. Does this make sense? So, like, doing it in a sustained manner and prepping for it, getting to the weight you want to be at, and then maintaining there is way better. Sitting very close to the weight that you compete at, even if it's 3 pounds over, 4 pounds over, I would say 3. And then you have to drop 5 pounds because you want like that 2-pound leeway because you want to be able to eat before you compete. So like if you're in that 3-pound over weight area, let's say you compete at under 140 and you sit at 143, that's perfect, right? You still, like, it's okay if you have to drop a little bit because 5 pounds is nothing and you can do that 4 weeks out. Drop the 5 pounds in like 2 weeks and then you reverse and you get to maintain and then you get to go in very fueled. Most people do this a week out, 2 weeks out, very drastically. And then the more you do it, not in the manner that is sustainable, the more your body is more than likely going to reject those methods over time. And it's not going to work as well for you. And it's going to get harder and harder and harder for you to cut weight. Because as you're doing it like this, you are messing with your hormones. You literally, I'm telling you right now, this is going to scare some people, but you can have a regular period. Your period can come every 30 days and your hormones can still be off whack. When I did my blood work for my Lyme disease and like my Hashimoto's and everything, my hormones were a mess. And I got my period every month within like the 28 to 33 day range. It was always on point. I knew it when it's coming. I ovulated. I knew when I ovulated. Everything was on track and my hormones were a mess. That was because of my disease, right? I do not cut much for jujitsu. I did it a few times before my Lyme really took over. And then after my Lyme disease took over, I have really not cut at all. I have competed where I sit. So when people are always like, why are you in middleweight? Because I'm 5'1", guys. I'm 5'1", and I compete in middleweight, which no gi for IBJJF is like 147 you have to weigh in. With the gi, it's like 151.2. Why? Because that's where I sit. I sit around 146 to 148 right now. And I feel good here. I am like very muscular. I'm lean, right? I want to get to a point where I'm like, and I'm getting there, which is great because I'm figuring all my stuff out. If you watch my last episode, like my Lyme disease, I'm doing really well. I'm going to sit back around 145. Here's why. Because if I want to cut for ADCC, it's going to be under 143. If I want to do middleweight, I'm already there. Right? If I want to do a 145 division, which is standard, I'm right there. And then if I want to go up to 155, because a lot of women compete at 155, I have the option. This weekend, I'm going up to 155. There were a lot of women in the division. There were not any in the other division. Also, was not cutting to that. And I'm going to talk about that in a second too. Why I'm so aggravated sometimes with like the way that the people organizing the sport and like weight classes, they like don't comprehend or understand how hard it is for women in these weight classes. We're not set up for much success here, ladies. So don't feel bad. We're not set up for much success because a lot of men are in charge of this sport and it's fine, but they're not educated in the fact that it is so hard for us to lose weight and cut. And it's hard and it makes things very difficult, right? So again, this one I'm doing this upcoming weekend, you have under 140 and then you have under 155. That is a 15-pound difference. I sit at 147, right in the middle. I am not cutting. I'm going up. I'm strong as hell. I will say that because of my athletic background, I am stronger than most women. I am stronger than a lot of men. I am not insulting anyone. I have worked my ass off to be this strong, right? I have confidence in myself to be able to go up. I also truly believe that any competitive elite athlete should try and get as strong as they possibly can around the weight that they sit at. You can do body composition, lose fat, gain muscle, stay around the same weight. You will be way more lethal, way more lethal. Okay. So, but even ADCC, there's three weight classes for women. There's like under 125, I think, under 143, then 125 to like 143. And I'm probably like, this probably isn't completely accurate. I don't have this up actually. And then it's like 143 or higher. Can you imagine a woman at like 150, like, well, fuck, I have to lose 7 pounds to compete under 143. And then I have to go compete against someone who's 200 and something pounds. That is insane to me. That is insane to me. And again, I could be like messing that up a little bit. But I believe that's what it is. It's roughly around the area. And there's 3, but there used to only be 2, I think. And now they added 1, which thanks. But like, dude, still so hard. So let's see. Here's the hormonal effects, okay? When people are not eating, massively dehydrating themselves, et cetera, and so forth. Maybe it's a heavy water cut. There's low energy availability, menstrual dysfunction, bone stress issues, altered metabolism and immune function, and performance issues. This was done in a study. That is insane. That is insane. So female UFC athletes, they typically let 5 to 7% of body weight before weigh-ins. UFC is a whole other ballgame, dude. UFC, their weight cutting, it like gives me anxiety. It gives me an aneurysm. It is so bad that it's done by professionals. All of them at the highlight have professionals helping them. It's not healthy. It is not healthy by any means. And they tell you that there are professional athletes like Kayla Harrison. She's talked about, she's like, it's so hard to cut the weight. She cuts like 30 plus pounds. And then like to rehydrate, oh my God. And then with rapid dehydration cuts, impair repeat effort performance, 24 hours, you may not be fully restored in hydration. About 4 in 10 fighters were still dehydrated on fight day, despite their rehydration protocols. 4 in 10. That's still a lot. Low energy availability can disrupt hormones in 4 to 5 days with menstrual side effects, like a wide side effect. So again, like that goes back to me telling you that if you weight cut and it's severe and then your next period, you're like, oh my God, this is so bad. That's why you're throwing your shit off. So this is something that people need to be very aware of. You need to make this more of a priority for yourself. If you are a woman in jiu-jitsu and you are like stuck between weight classes and you're stuck cutting weight and all this stuff. When you do IBJJF, you literally have to weigh in 30 minutes before your match. Half the time your matches are at like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That is crazy to be not eating for however long, right? It's not the most ideal at all. You have to be very diligent in your weight cuts. It is mentally taxing as well. And also, when we get our periods, if we are getting our periods around the time of a competition, that makes things even way worse and harder. I got mine 2 days ago and I compete tomorrow, or yesterday I got it and I compete tomorrow. I knew that when signing up and I was like, hey, hell no. I ain't doing no lower shit. No way. I had to cut weight drastically for my super fight in June because this was before I started my Lyme treatment and my body was not responding and it was so hard. And I went out there and I had to cut, it was 9 pounds in 2 weeks and it was so hard. And I went out there and yes, I won. I felt like shit. I did not perform the way I usually do. I could not finish her. I could not finish a submission because I was burning everyone. My muscles were screaming at me because I had to take hot baths, dehydrate myself. I had to walk extra. I had to eat very minimal carbs. It was very hard. And I had to do it because I'm not going to drop out and I'm not going to miss weight, right? And this is what a lot of women get into. And that was the only time I ever did that. And I was like, I will never do this again. And then I got help. And mine was more so health-related issues, right? And that didn't make my health any better, right? So I'm not sitting here telling you in this video like, oh, I had to do it also. And I know how it feels and it is not good. And then based off of everything that I know, everything that I preach in my nutrition coaching, everything I know about the human body and how it responds to things, I know how bad that was. And I only did it once. There is such a healthier and more methodical way to do this. Like I said, sit roughly around where you want to compete. If you have to drop, you start that 4 or 5 weeks prior, and then you get to a maintenance, and then you reverse. And you go in fueled. When I did Worlds last year, I did middleweight. I was eating pasta and steak the night before. I felt amazing. Everyone else gassed. I watched women at Masters Worlds this past year stuffing candy and gummies in their mouths after weigh-ins. And I was like, hi, that's not it. Everyone thinks that gummies, yes, that's a fast way. You realize the crash, the sugar crash that you're going to have, especially more rapidly because of your adrenaline dump, that's going to hit you. And then halfway you're down 2 matches and you're like, oh God, I don't feel good. Not good. Not good. Right? So I've been helping a lot of women. I'm trying to kind of shift. I help all walks of life of people in nutrition, but I am trying to shift a lot more of my business to women in jujitsu and women who have to cut weight for sports because I've been able to help so many people. I had a college wrestler last week. We had to cut her weight. It was only 5 pounds. And it was going really slow. And I'm like, okay, we got to bike a little bit extra, maybe add a little bit of extra walks. But she was still fueling really good, still eating a ton of calories. She felt good. Literally the day before she had to weigh in, she's like, oh, I got my period. And I'm like, oh, man. And I track their periods and everything like that. But hers has been a little off. She's in college. We just started together recently. We're trying to fix some stuff, get her feeling better, get her eating habits better, get her body mellowed out. We've made a lot of progress, but you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh crap. My main priority with her is to regulate her period and then everything else will follow. Now this week, it's a lot easier and she's feeling a lot better and she did feel good and she did really, really well at her meet last week. So these are the things that I look for. These are the things that I fix. I work with Paige Yvette. I've been helping her. I helped her for her IBJJF Euros this past week. She is, I'm going to say this off the get-go, a professional athlete. This is her job. 3 weeks prior to her signing up and going, she had to drop a weight class. I'm not going to disclose any information on why because that's not my business to share. But she had to drop a weight class because she's a professional athlete. And sometimes that's how it goes. And she had to lose about 12 pounds from where we were at. And I was like, we can do it. It's going to be hard. You have to be consistent. You just have to follow the plan. She's like, I'll do it. And that's the beauty of working with the professional athletes. They do it. She works her ass off. She's an amazing, amazing human, amazing athlete. If you don't follow her, you should. And I told her, I got her down. She was like 184, I think, when we started, 185. Got her down to 174 in about 2 weeks. Very healthy. She was still eating around 2,000 calories. Crushing it. Body's just responding super well because the consistency, the way I set it up, the way I put your macros, everything's going to move. And then I told her, I was like, when you fly, because you're flying to Europe or Rome, or wherever she was going, I'm like, you're going to gain a lot from the inflammation and everything, right? She got off the plane. She was like 182. She was like, oh my God. I'm like, it's going to be okay. It's going to come off very quickly. She got there early, right? She had 4 or 5 days prior to competing. I'm like, perfect. She dropped very quickly down to like 172 within 2 to 3 days of just like, I'm like, steam in a hot shower, go for an extra walk, sauna a little bit, but keep drinking, keep eating, you're fine. 3 days out, I performed like a PSMF with her. PSMF stands for protein sparing modified fast. It's where you eat a lot of protein, you eat a little bit of carbs, you eat a lot of vegetables. So your protein and your fats are pretty high. And then your carbohydrates are like moderate, pretty low, but you're still getting the fuel you needed because it's only 3 days. You've been fueling properly, you feel good, et cetera, and so forth. After weigh-ins, you fuel up properly. I think we did like 2 bananas, some honey, and extra fruit, dried fruit, things like that. She felt so good. She murdered it. She won. She took first place. She texted me. She's like, I felt so good. I'm like, yes. But it's stressful leading up to that. And that was the first time she did a cut like that ever in her professional career. Oh, let's just sink that in here for everyone watching who's been cutting nonstop since they've started jujitsu. And that was because she had to do it. And that's what happens. Like sometimes you have to do those things as a professional athlete. You have to cut down. You have to go up. There's like, it's just kind of how it goes. Anyways, so that is kind of the gist of weight cutting for women in jujitsu. I could talk for hours on this subject, but what it comes down to is, in conclusion, many people don't do it right. Many people don't have the actual solid knowledge of what your nutritional needs and base should be prior to competing and cutting. You do things based off of what maybe things online tell you or what your teammates tell you to do. Drink this much water and then stop drinking it and then take your sodium out and then you'll pee a lot and then you'll make weight. Just sauna a whole hell of a lot. Just keep saunaing. Don't eat any carbs. Skip all of your meals. You'll make weight. You literally you are not going to perform nearly as good as you would if you were feeling fueled. Everything, here it is. A systematic review showed athletes with LEA had decreased run performance, worse training response, impaired coordination, judgment, explosive power, and agility. That is crazy. Increased cortisol in females up to 22%. And reduced performance in a 20-minute time trial and time exhaustion. So insane. Also, your cognitive function, that goes to crap. You need your cognitive function, your brain to work properly when you're fighting someone, right? It's so important. So like you don't realize the amount that you're actually like losing in terms of your overall athletic performance and in what your body is actually capable of doing because you're going in malnourished as all hell. And then you're getting adrenaline dumps and your cortisol spiking, your fight or flight instincts kicking in on top of it, which is going to make you feel worse. And then you're expected to go in and perform at top level, the best you possibly can. 100% effort, fighting another human being in a competitive aspect. It's not going to happen, right? So think about that. If you want help, guys, I would love to help you. Like I said, I would love to be able to help more women in the sport and help guide them in this aspect. I do one-time macro assessments. I do month-to-month macro nutrition coaching. My monthly nutrition coaching, and this is anyone. You don't have to be a competitive athlete to come work with me. I work with all walks of life. People who are fighting illnesses, people who have autoimmune diseases, people who want to change their blood work, people with type 2 diabetes, people who just want to lose weight and get healthier, people who just want to look jacked, people who are competitive, all of them. I work with everyone, okay? My month-to-month coaching is very in-depth. You have constant access to me, texting. You get weekly video recorded check-ins where I go over all your food for the past week. I give you a check-in sheet. I break down life stressors, everything. I'm so close to all of my clients. I have a very, very, very close relationship with all of my clients. So that's what the monthly coaching is. It's very in-depth. I teach you a lot about your body. A lot. And you will learn so much to the aspect that like over time you won't need me. And you'll be able to do this on your own. But it is nice to not have to do it on your own. Take the emotional aspect out of it and let me handle that. But there is a better way to cut weight for your sport. There's a better way to feel in your sport. You can get stronger in the area that you sit. You don't have to cut weight. Like I said, I'm 5'1" and I'm in middleweight. Everyone's always like, why are you not in lightweight? I'm like, I would die. I would die if I had to get down to 137. I have so much muscle. Guys, my legs, most of my weight is in my legs. Like they're huge. They're not going anywhere. So I'm going to actually make them stronger. I'm going to make them more, a lot stronger in an isometric aspect. And I'm going to fuck it up there. And I have been. And I feel good. So I'm not worried about any of that stuff. And that's kind of, that's the gist of this all. So if you need anything, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, DM me, ask me anything you want. You can comment on this and ask me questions and I will answer you and I will help you out. But I hope this paves the way for you and just realizing that like, hey, you don't have to cut to compete. And there are different ways to go about this. And if you are cutting, there are a lot healthier ways and methods to be doing this. And you don't have to feel like shit out there. And you don't have to wreck your hormones. And you don't have to feel like you're crawling through mud fighting for your life. You could feel your best self and you can go in there and literally be a menace on those men. If you already are a menace, think about the menace you could be otherwise too, even better. So hopefully that explains some things. I know it's kind of tangent wise. There's a lot to go over. There's a lot to cover, but this is the gist of it. And if there's other things you want me to talk about more, maybe something that has caught your eye in this podcast that you're like, oh, I would like to learn more about that. Again, comment below or fill out my topic sheet in the link in my bio on my Instagram. My Instagram is @_RAYCHKA. Most of you are there, but I'm getting a lot of people from a lot of different avenues. So that is my Instagram if you don't have it. And if you liked this, like it, subscribe to my page. I'm excited to keep rocking and rolling here. I've had some great feedback, but this has been really fun. And I'm excited to keep sharing my knowledge and I'm excited to keep helping you guys in a, nutritional aspect, sport, strength and conditioning aspect, spiritual aspect, all things in life. I'm excited to keep kind of sharing my story and keep educating and keep paving the way for everyone who wants to listen. So thanks for being here. Let me know what you think. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend and I'll see you here next week.